for sake!
If you're familiar with the channel, we're no stranger to talking about the Rugrats, specifically the various incarnations of the show like All Grown Up and Preschool Days. And for the last couple years, we've heard about a revival or reboot of the show in a new fashion that would see the babies, as well, babies once more. This time, however, we would see them in a whole new dimension. The third dimension, that is. Of course, as a nostalgia-driven fan of what they grew up with, I have been very hesitant in my excitement for this show to come out. But I like going into things like this open-minded because no matter what, we always have the original. And if it turns out great, then that just means we have another great iteration of the series to enjoy. The original show was hugely impactful to me while growing up, especially with how it introduced things in cartoons not seen before at the time, whether it was showing us other celebrated holidays aside from just Christmas, or the way it would teach certain life lessons and morals. It allowed that childhood wonderment of adventure to never fully leave me even when I became an adult. So now, as an adult, it's time to take a look at the 5 episodes that Paramount Plus has released for the 2021 reboot of the Rugrats, and find out if it can capture those same or even similar feelings the original show elicits. So if you enjoy the video and the fact that I waited up until 2 AM when the episodes dropped to watch all of them, then drop a like on the video as it truly helps the video out, and I'd very much appreciate it. To start off, the show is a full-on reboot, like to the point where Dill isn't born yet and Kimmy isn't Chucky's stepsister yet. It's the original cast of babies with Susie and Angelica, all with their original voice actors, and aside from better audio recording equipment for a crisper experience, they sound the exact same, which is a huge plus in enjoying seeing these characters again. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for the parents. They all have new voice actors with drastically different sounding voices, which is something that can be looked past if it weren't for the fact that they all sound off, a little too off. They all sound a little too over-exaggerated playing into their new tropes. I do, however, like Grandpa Lou's character as he played more into his hippie-esque nature. His character in general is probably my favorite character in the show as of right now. As far as all the other adults, there are some standout, distinctly ear-displeasing vocal inflections that tend to get a bit too annoying.
You know what, Stu? When you're right, you're right.
Like Chucky's dad, Chaz, and both Tommy's parents, Dee Dee and Stu, and more so Dee Dee than Stu.
Oh, that is so sweet.
And this isn't to rag on the voice actors though, of course. More so towards the direction they were told to go with the characters given. Oh, and for some reason, Phil and Lil's father, Howard, from the original show is nowhere to be seen. But there are some implications as to maybe why, and we might find out at a later time. The new intro to the show is nice. It pays homage to the original while still having its own personality, which is great to see, and of course the title cards haven't lost their charm. It's still always fun to hear this. Original sound. But at least with the new one, they're integrating Rugrats sounds that we've already known and heard before. So you still get that instant attachment and smile on your face when you hear it. I also want to right off the bat mention the animation, as it'll be obviously the first thing you notice. Unlike my thoughts on the less expressiveness and more stiff animation that Camp Coral provided us, here you can tell a lot of work was done to maintain the look and feel of the Rugrats. The characters look great and have plenty of expressive qualities that I wasn't expecting to be this impressed by. From how the characters walk and how much their faces emote when speaking is truly a testament to the hard work of the animators who deserve all the credit for this. But okay, let's get into what the show offers. The first episode begins with a fun Jurassic Park parody, and that's not fair for me because that's my favorite film of all time and it's already trying to win me over. This episode reestablishes us into the world of the Rugrats, showing that it takes place in modern times, from smartphones to Gen Z references, and anything else that you would consider nowadays modern. And some things feel natural, like of course seeing the smartphones being used, but some other things like the aforementioned Gen Z taking photos of themselves getting coffee to post on social media particularly stick out like a sore thumb. So it can be a bit eye-roll inducing because of this, but so far it hasn't gone too much over the deep end with it. One thing the original show was known for was the adventures the babies would embark on, and there's actually 2 types of different adventures that they would go on if you really look into it. So let's start with the be non-fantastical, completely irresponsible adventures, where the babies would be poorly supervised to the point where they would end up in crazy, dangerous situations, like sneaking out of the house, exploring the inner workings of a movie theater, and I don't know, being kidnapped? The show didn't lose that adventurous trait. The first episode, the babies sneak away from the care of Grandpa Lou and drive a powered toy car through the streets alongside actual cars. Or Tommy almost again getting accidentally kidnapped. So it's safe to say that the unsafe aspects of the baby's adventures are still intact, and the parents are still not the best at the whole parenting thing. The other type of adventures would be more along the lines of imaginative journeys, like thinking they're in a western but really they're at a park playground, or that they're in a spaceship and it's really just a box full of imagination. Here we see that as well, but now to the effect of being slightly more fleshed out due to the 3D animation space. Like with the opening Jurassic Park scene, or them being superheroes like was teased in the trailer to a future episode. And I'm sure plenty more to come within the series. With what this technology can do now, and like I said earlier, the incredible animators, they are able to accomplish a more atmospheric adventure. Now, that doesn't mean they're better than the original adventures. Some here are hits and some here are misses as well. It's really down to the storytelling aspect of the adventure being told and how any lessons or morals are conveyed. The original show also had quite the amount of trippy, bizarre, and downright terrifying visuals. It really was a staple of the Rugrats experience, and I'm happy to say, albeit not to the same frequency of the original, the new Rugrats keeps those visual traditions alive. Genuine moments of what am I looking at right now? And I am glad that this factor played a part here. We also see the classic character growth in which a character like Chucky, for this example, in the first episode learns to be brave and even says to Tommy, what if tomorrow I be the brave one and you be the not so brave one? Even Phil and Lil have their classic fights but come back together in the end. But similar to the original, a lot of these lessons don't stick to the next episode. But that's also really not the fault of the new show if it's following the formula given from the original. And also, they're babies, so it really doesn't even matter anyway. More traits here get fleshed out compared to how they were represented or alluded to in the original, like the dichotomy of Stu and Drew, one being the creative, fun-loving inventor still living a very modest lifestyle for what they can afford, and the other living in a much larger and fancier home, but with less of the more fun and open life in favor of one more clean-cut and stricter. Charlotte this time around is more interesting than just the non-attentive businesswoman. She tries to be more open here with the people in her life and be more willing to be involved in other situations, but of course still has business to attend to. And Jonathan's back. So that's an extra point right there. With Dee Dee and Stu, we still see them both clinging on to their hobbies. Dee Dee is no longer just the obsessive mothering type living to the code of a baby guru, and now has a whole craft room converted from a shed in the backyard, as well as her own baby blog. And while Stu is still a crazy inventor, he now has a crazy video game addiction. It was an interesting direction to flesh out the parental characters more, as they've always been integral to the show, but now it feels like their stories within the episodes feel more important and don't just revolve around the babies. It's truly strange to see so many new changes that actually work without having to change the Rugrats entirely. Like with All Grown Up, the stories involving the characters work to a much greater effect as the babies are now preteens and can communicate with the adults, where now all their stories can collide. So I found myself here just as invested into what the parents had going on as I did the babies and their adventures. I think the one larger problem with the show in general is finding a reason why it exists. And let me explain what I mean by that. While some of the stories and adventures are unique and new, it's still a lot of the old, redoing scenarios we've already seen in the original, or at least similar enough where the originality the show can have is lost in the fact of, well, I've seen it before. It's totally fine to retread old territories for the show since it's also introducing it to a new generation, but it lacks that big oomph of excitement for returning viewers. It just hasn't found its own true voice yet, which again is fine, but I would love to see it do so as the show progresses. All in all, the new 2021 reboot of the Rugrats is a better example of a show coming back that can maintain the essence of the original and keep the important factors that made it special to begin with. It still has its fair share of problems that aren't so easily overlooked, not just for people like me who grew up with the Rugrats, but for newcomers to the show as well. But the thing that shows the most is that there clearly are people who truly love the Rugrats working on this new version of it. From the references and homages to the show's roots, to the small details scattered around the backgrounds. The effort and attention to detail didn't go unnoticed, and it was truly appreciated. And while at the end of the day I will always favor the original show due to my attachment to it, what the new show has offered is surprisingly not too bad. It's also too early to fully make a hard statement condemning this show either to being good or bad. There is still a full season's worth of episodes to eventually be released over the next year, and I look forward to discussing this show further on the channel when more episodes do come out. So if you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on the show so far and want to hear them further when there is more to talk about, make sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe. I mean, this whole channel is powered by nostalgia, so if you're into all that in general, I would love to have you here. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know down in the comments below, are you excited for this to finally come out? Are you watching it? What do you think about it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Let's discuss all of that in the comment section down below. I'll be back with another video here in a couple days, so until then, later.